Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Film Fund podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Verdi, founder and executive producer at the Film Fund. We're an online film funding platform that's a little bit different than screenwriting contests, crowdfunding campaigns, grant opportunities. I wanted something a little bit simpler. So what you do is you write one sentence pitching your film, what it's about, how you would use some of the funding if you were chosen as a winner. You submit a small entry fee, and our panel of judges base so they select a winner based on your pitch sentence. We have funded over 20 films to date and are still going strong. Even through COVID, we're making funding available. We just recently closed our deadline last night at 11:59 p.m. So I want to thank everyone who did submit. But we host multiple contests per year. So if you're listening at a later date in 2021, be sure to go to thefilmfund.co for all the updated information. Today we have one of our previous winners, David Oster. I'm so excited to get to know him a little bit better, as well as provide a brief background for the guests. I have not had my coffee today, as you can probably see me stumbling over my words here a little bit. We have the branded mugs that are coming out shortly. But David Oster, who did I Love Jazz with a pretty big star, actually, from Stranger Things, Randy Haven. So I'm pretty interested in learning a little bit more about that. David, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Tell us
Thank
a
you.
little bit more about yourself, how you got into filmmaking.
Thank you for having me. First of all, congratulations on the success that you've had. Another deadline has come,
Thank
and
you.
even amongst COVID, you are still doing it and still funding films. Thank you for the work that you're doing. We'll get into that, I'm sure, later on, just exactly what that is and what that means. But I think it's really cool what you do for filmmakers as a filmmaker yourself, and like it's a amazing opportunity, unique opportunity that you provide for filmmakers like myself. Uh,
Thank you
for
for all the
my
support.
background, thank you. I'm from Atlanta. I went to the University of Georgia, and I'm one of those I'm one of those like cliche people that grew up just making short films with my friends, and like my parents gave me a camera when I was a kid, and I was making films from middle school on. Uh, I went at UGA. I kind of was a film studies minor and a media major, so I
Mhm.
always knew I wanted to work in film. And ever since I graduated, I've just been working in the film industry ever since 2009. My first movie I ever worked on was The Blind Side, and I was an intern on the show Community. And Atlanta has been sort of a hotbed for filmmaking and giant movies and things coming in here since about 2009 with like Zombieland. And so I've worked on the Hunger Games, I've worked on Avengers, and most recently I've worked on Loki for Disney Plus. And so I've had a lot of experiences working in the film industry at different jobs. We can kind of go, go into that, but I've
Mhm.
basically worked my way up from PA to assisting different people, directors, producers, actors on different shows.
Mhm.
So I've learned a lot from doing that. But as far as my filmmaking career, I've done a lot of work with companies called MoFilm, Tongle, and some others where they're sort of like branded content agencies, like for people who are not signed or not repped but can work with these bigger companies.
Mhm.
And I've done projects for a bunch of different clients like Fiat. I did a thing for Fiat, National Geographic. uh, I've done projects for Westin hotels. I did like 6 month project traveling around making videos for their hotels. So I kind of cut my teeth doing these like documentary style or branded content videos.
Mhm.
And then I've made my own films as I go, because that's the ultimate dream. That's the ultimate goal, to just be doing that full time.
Mhm.
But that's part of the reason why I applied for the film fund, is to just be able to make my own project using the funding that you guys helped me provide.
Mhm.
And then most recently this year, I uh, directed a documentary for the Sci-Fi Channel on Todd McFarlane, who is a famous comic book artist and entrepreneur. He created Spawn. I don't know if anybody remembers Spawn, but it was a big popular comic book in the 90s. And it's kind of having a bit of a resurgence right now. And they're trying to make a movie with Bloomhouse.
Oh
So
well.
that was a really exciting project for me to be able to do. I did that for most of last
And
year.
that was
And
through
so
Tongle as well.
that was It was, yeah, it
Okay.
was. And so that premiered in July during the virtual Comic Con time, and it was cool. I mean, it was a big success in my eyes in terms of where we started and where we ended up.
Hmm.
And I'm happy to talk more about that as we go on. But it was something where it was not meant to be what it was originally on TV, and then it was so we did such a good job that it ended up being one of the marquee things that they did for Comic Con, which was amazing.
Hmm.
I mean, when you look at the landscape of COVID and all that, I mean, I feel for anybody trying to make anything right now or like have their things premiered because you can't really do
Yeah, all of our
proper
projects
film
are
premieres and all
we're
that.
making the funding
So
available, but it's all the projects are in pre-production, and we're making funding available for when they can shoot. But it's
yeah,
so. I mean, I have as a filmmaker myself, I have a short currently in quote unquote pre-production, kind of on hiatus, just because I don't want to risk everything. And but yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
it is tough. Even from when I got the documentary came out, that opened a few avenues for me to talk to some people, get some Zoom meetings with different executives or different people, and which was cool. But a lot of them were saying the same thing, which was like, right now we're kind of stalled out,
Hmm.
with what we can do, because the the safety of it all. I mean, that's still a huge issue, but also the expense. Of how much it costs to deal with it
Hmm.
is a big factor as well.
Absolutely.
So I was lucky. I mean,
That wrapped, I
working
guess,
on
before COVID happened.
the
The
documentary,
documentary, yeah.
yes, we finished filming. Well, we finished. I submitted my cut in December of last year, and
Hmm.
then actually, realistically, COVID, was a blessing in some ways in terms of that project specifically, not for any other reason, but just because there was more time for it to be worked on. And so it actually ended up uh, giving us more time to have a composer make more music and
Hmm.
do some different editing things that actually I think made it better in the long run, because beforehand it was being rushed out. And so that helped that specific project,
Hmm.
you know. But it's been a crazy year.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all you can
In
say,
terms of your own filmmaking career, aside from the agency and the branded projects, I mean, how do you usually go about funding your short films? I mean, I guess I Love Jazz, was that one of your? I know we talked in the past, but that was one of your earlier short films, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like I've spent a lot of time directing projects, but not many of my own short films, which is what I want to be doing more of.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, that was really like, you know, a first short film for me in a while. So I've done other creative things, but in terms of fully a short film from myself and doing that, that was, you know, one of the first I've done. So, of course, there's things that I think we succeeded at with that short film. There's things that I think we could have done better, but that's why we create things. That's why we make
Hmm.
films. To be able to learn and continue to grow as artists. I think for me, when I made when I wrote I Love Jazz, I can just talk to you about that for a minute of just like conceiving that film and like trying to get it made. Was I just wanted to make something that I thought was cool and something that sort of reminded me of. I was inspired by sort of like Black Mirror and Stephen King short films. Short stories I was reading, and I was like, I want to make something like that, like self-contained thing, something in one place. And it kind of evolved that we wanted to shoot it all in one continuous kind of take, and this was like before 1917, so that wasn't influencing us. But it
Hmm.
was like, okay, it would be cool if it's like small and like claustrophobic. And then we had some cool ideas to like change the lighting, and there's like new lighting technology where you can use an iPad and just sort of be changing all the lights as you're doing it. And we're like, yeah, it was ambitious, but it was something that us as like film nerds were like, this is cool, let's try this.
Hmm.
And
And that's what short
I
films are for, kind of
yeah,
playground
just
experiment.
do stuff that you can't do in another medium,
Oh.
like and it's like, could we have done better? Sure, but like we did it, and so there's there's something to be said about just doing it. I think there's no shame in the attempt.
No, absolutely. It
uh
came out amazing, I think. Um, what were, oh, well, first of all, before we delve into, I guess, some different lessons you learned on that production, give us a brief synopsis of I Love Jazz. Maybe not synopsis, but just overview of what it's about.
okay. Pretty simple. It's just about a guy who uh he brings in a record, a jazz record, and he puts the jazz record on, and the record, he starts to make a drink, and as the record is a warning from himself, warning him that someone is about to come and kill him, uh, or take him. And then as this is progressing, the music is part of it, and the colors change in the room, and it's this kind of surreal, sort of uh, disturbing, sort of uncomfortable vibe.
Mm-hmm.
He goes and gets a bat, and he's ready to like attack whoever is going to come in. He hears a knocking and a rumbling at the door, and then he uh, he he kind of goes and hides, and then someone comes in and he kills that person. But was that person the right person that was he was warned about? Maybe not.
Mm.
uh in fact, not. So that's like the basic premise of what's happening. It's just this sort of like surreal, sort of in his head or not in his head, sort of
Mm-hmm. And we don't find out how
creepy
that
film.
voice, how his voice got on the record or anything, right? It's kind of,
It's up to interpretation,
mm,
like, and then it kind of ends in the way of like it ends as it began, and it's sort of like I have my own ideas of what that means and what that is, but I like to leave it up to the imagination of what's actually
mm,
happening in the film. So you know it's one of those kind of things. I look at it as sort of like a mini mini sort of Black Mirror sort of
mm,
scenario, you know what I mean?
absolutely.
So it's sort of like a psychological thriller horror thing.
Mm. But yeah, that's how I usually describe it to people. It's like exactly you said, psychological thriller, which I did a film studies minors too, so technically a subgenre of horror. So it gets into all that. And
Yeah.
what would you say some of the most challenging aspects of the production were?
That's a great question. I think just with something like this, like we were pretty ambitious to try to shoot it all in one continuous take
Mm,
and to make it feel like it was all one thing. So that was really the most challenging thing, because I think in retrospect, I would love to have had more time to rehearse, just more time to work it out, but that's just a product of just not having time or not having the money to have everyone together all the time. We
mm.
did rehearse, we did have time to do that, but I guess you can always want more.
Yeah, I see.
But so we had to end up sort of like taking what was initially in the script and just cutting things and making it work to fit into the time that we had to shoot,
Mm,
because we were limited there. But I think for me, like, it is that shooting all in one take kind of thing that really made it difficult, because you have to get the pacing and you have to get the everything has to
mm.
be right.
Yeah.
So if he's coming out with the bat and the lights change, and then he gets to the other end of the room, then he has to flip off the light switch and then come back to the other end of the room, or the camera has to go down to the door handle jiggling and then back to his face and then back to that. All of those movements and all of that choreography has to be exactly right,
Mm.
or none of it
Yeah,
works.
no, absolutely. I
So
watched a behind the
you,
scenes um, kind of, I guess, feature. It was back when people watched Blu-rays and DVDs of Birdman, and they went through
yeah,
all of that choreography for how that's made to look like one take, and you have to be at this block at this second, or else it doesn't work, and you have to start over. So I can
yeah,
imagine how that could be definitely challenging, especially on a
and even
short.
just this, yeah, this small like microcosm of that. Trust me, it gives me a lot of newfound like respect for the people making movies like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it just seems so easy when you watch it, but man, it is not. There's a part where Randy comes out and he has to flip a light switch, but all the lights are controlled by someone else in another room, including that one. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like he's just flipping the light switch.
Right.
but that light was on like a 1 second delay from
Oh
him
wow.
doing that.
It's almost like
And
theater in a way where you're controlling the lighting console.
exactly, yeah. So everything was being controlled by the gaffer in another room on an iPad. So,
Mhm.
but we would get to that part and he would flip the switch and then the light would turn like a second later and it wouldn't look real.
Right.
So we'd have to scrap that whole take.
Oh wow.
So that happened several times and we just had to end up just timing it out. And we had, if you watch it, like he basically puts his hand on the whole switch so it's not as noticeable
Mhm.
when he actually flips the
Yeah, I did
switch.
not notice.
And then, so it could, it's not, it just kind of blocks that a little bit. And we just eventually got it to where it looked like he was actually
Mhm.
turning the light off. And that took a few takes.
Got
So
it.
just small things like that. At the very end, he goes and he reaches to get a bottle, and we were probably, I mean, we were probably at like 13 hours day
Oh
at
wow.
this point. Like it was like a full like I think we were like ended like a 14-hour day.
You
So
shot it all in one day. I don't
all in
remember
one
the
day,
extensive
yeah.
work. Okay, wow.
And so we're at the end of the day, and this is the last thing that we have to do, and it's like a mirror of the first shot, and it's just a little slightly different where he says the line "I love jazz," and he goes to reach for a bottle behind him, and he would do everything right, and he would not miss. He would not be able to grab the bottle. He would miss it,
Oh
and then
no.
it would just mess it up. And then eventually, I was like, "You don't see it. Just pretend like you grab the bottle,
Mhm.
and then go. If you look carefully, like he goes into the kitchen and starts to pour a drink, but he's not
He's not
actually
actually
holding a
holding the
bottle.
bottle.
Yeah, so
That's so
there you
funny.
go.
That's awesome.
Because I got to the point where it was just like that's the only thing holding us
Yeah.
up.
And if you don't even
Like,
see it, he's an actor. Just
and if
act like you have a
someone
bottle.
notices that, then they're not noticing the right thing.
Right.
And so, like, let's just get this because the performance is fine,
Mhm.
everything's good, the camera work is great, everything's working except for you're just not grabbing the bottle sometimes,
Mhm.
and it's just like movie magic. Let's
Yeah.
just pretend like you
There you
did.
go. Nice
So
little
stuff like that,
BTS
but that was
tidbit.
fun. That was a really fun
Yeah.
challenge to do, and yeah, I mean, shooting it all in one day was tough. I think
Mhm.
in hindsight, I
Well,
would
it
have liked
goes
to have
with the
more than
whole
one day,
premise
but yeah,
too. One take, one choreographed shot, one day. There you go.
there you go. And so it was fun. It was fun. I think one thing that ended up being hard too is that like when the times we rehearsed it, we didn't have the camera fully built,
Mhm.
uh, and then when we did have the camera fully built and our Steadicam operator doing it, it was like taking up more room than we anticipated.
Wow.
So the blocking of what we had come up with needed to change to uh, accommodate for that,
Mhm.
which made things a little bit more difficult. And some of the camera moves that we thought we had conceived were harder to do for him than it was for us to just do on a phone or
Mhm.
a smaller camera like a
Sure.
DSLR or something. So we're like, okay, some of those things, and we just, figured it out as we went along. And that was kind of the fun challenge of
Mhm.
it.
Speaking
And
of
so,
Randy Havens and casting, I mean, how did you link up with him? For those who don't know, the Film Fund probably could have marketed that a little bit better too. Missed opportunity. But he plays the teacher in Stranger Things, um, which obviously is a humongous show. Um, how did you link up with him? Was that just an organic process?
yeah, I'm glad you asked. Obviously, he's Mr. Clark on Stranger Things, a fan favorite character, one of my favorite characters from that show. And it's just so happens that I'm pretty involved with the Atlanta improv and acting community, and Randy has done some short films with some other people that I know and respect, and we have a mutual like creative community.
Mhm.
And my DP Kyler has shot one of those short films with him, and he's the one that helped kind of facilitate
Mhm.
me meeting with Randy. I had
So,
known Randy from like mutual friends, and he knew me
mhm.
from that, but what we had never really met before, and
Mhm.
and he sent him he made the connection. I sent him the script, and then he and I met for coffee, and we went over with it, and it didn't take very long for him to say, yeah, let's do this. So that's how it
Did
all
you
kind of
start
happened.
out
It
that
did
meeting
feel.
saying, "Oh, I'm a big fan," or were you pretty cool about it?
I was cool about it. I
That's
was
good.
cool about it. We did talk about that, but I think me and Randy clicked pretty quickly.
Mm,
Like, we spent a good portion of that first meeting talking about the script and talking about what I had in mind and the vision I had for the project and what he thought. But we spent a lot of time just talking about movies and
mm.
talking about other projects that we were working on and other people that we knew
So
and
the message there is
mutual
really
friends that we had.
get out there in your community, be creative. Well, with COVID, it's difficult, but once things go back to normal, which I think they will eventually, um, get out
Have a
there
Zoom
and
coffee.
they get, yeah, have a Zoom call for now. Just
Yeah.
immerse yourself in your community and be creative because you guys seem to have linked up through different projects you were working on and then you clicked over creativity.
Yeah, and it's not as hard as it seems sometimes, in the community of filmmakers and people in this community. And I don't mean just like us making short films. I mean like the wider, um, the wider just film industry as a whole. It's always smaller to me than I ever think,
Mm,
uh, and the people that you meet. I mean, people are hungry to make stuff all the time, and they'll do it for you know as if they're passionate about it. They find people that are passionate about projects and they want to do it. It's not always just about the money or about the what can I get out of this.
mm,
A lot of times people just want to make stuff, and uh, a lot of times too is like once it's already happening and it's a thing that's real, then it becomes easier for people to get on board with
mm.
that. And getting to that point is a lot of times the hardest part.
Yeah.
Getting to the point where you've got the money lined up, you've got the time, you've got the things in place to actually do it.
Mm,
And once you're doing it, then it becomes like a snowball effect of like people get on
mm.
board, it becomes a real thing. And so that's a hard part to get to.
Yeah. Talking about
But
getting
if you
money lined
can,
up, how did you first hear about the film fund?
how did I hear about the film fund? I just think I saw it from. I really think it was. I think there was a website called No Film School or
Okay.
Film School Rejects or something like
Mm.
that. I don't, and
Could be
I
no film
think it
school.
was advertised.
They post us on their big funding roundup every time we have a contest. They have like a
Yeah,
top
and there's like
spring.
a whole,
Yeah, so it could
there's
have been
like a
that.
list of like all the different grants and
Mm,
types of things, and I think it was on that. And I remember seeing it, and I'm happy to go into this. I remember seeing it and just thinking how cool, like how different and cool that was to just write a sentence,
mm,
sell me this movie in just a sentence, and how you'd make it, why you'd make it in just like the shortest amount possible. And I was like, that's a kind of a bold thing, but also like so cool.
thank
And
you.
like it's like an interesting way to say like, hey, it doesn't have to be like a script that we say, like it could just be a concept.
Mm,
And you know it is sort of a risk that you're taking, I think, in terms of what eventually gets made, but
mm,
I think it's a cool risk. I think that's a unique risk.
yep.
uh, and I will never forget uh, the moment that I saw that I had won. I'll tell you about that. Like, I was in Budapest
Oh wow.
in on a river cruise on the Danube River at night, and it was my birthday, and I checked my email and I saw that, and I was like, is this real? Like, so it was just like, it was surreal. Like, the whole
Mm,
experience of finding out that I had won, that's how I found out. And I was like,
that's
wow,
incredible.
this,
What a birthday present.
like, amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I happened to be there because I was working on a TV show in Prague at the time, and I went to Budapest over the weekend for my birthday, and it was just like a nice birthday present. I'll tell you that. Thank
mm.
you.
You're very
And
welcome. It
yeah,
was your
because you
sentence that was so great. Our judges really
and
liked it.
you, I'm glad, and I think that it's a great thing that you guys do, and I hope that I can contribute to helping other filmmakers get the same kind of thing that I got.
Absolutely. I mean, speaking of that, let's read your winning sentence right here. I have it pulled up. Um, it is so part of why we like the one sentence pitch is it's concise. You're pitching your project. It's a log line, but it's also a little bit more than that. It gets the producibility about it. Like, why do you need? Give us one reason you need this funding to make this happen, and tell us about it really quickly. It's kind of like your elevator pitch for your film. So I think it's very simple, but it's also a little bit challenging. So I think examples can be good to help other filmmakers when they're crafting their sentences. So here it is. When a man's own voice warns him of his impending murder via a jazz record, the next few moments are filled with suspense, color, and jazz, and I need funding to shoot all in one choreographed shot. So we read that and we were just like, holy shit, there's so much here in this one sentence. It's his own voice, there's an impending murder, there's color, whatever that means, and there's jazz, and it's all going to be done in one shot. So it was just, you created this, Black Mirror-esque world, like you said, in this one sentence where his own voice comes out of a jazz record somehow, and then it gets so claustrophobic. Also, like you said, in one choreographed shot. So we were able to picture exactly what, not exactly, but we got a very good idea of what this film could look like, the potential it had just based on the one sentence. And I just think that's really, really powerful. And it's it's a challenge, to be able to do that. And I think you pulled it off really, really well. And our judges saw it fulfilled the two criteria of compelling premise. Obviously, compelling premise. You have murder, and there's so much conflict. We actually have a blog post of how this. We do this for a few of our sentences we released. How they, evoke, how they. I can't think of the right word. Bring about how they portray conflict. There we go. As well as use the funding. So this sentence definitely does that for sure. Speaking of the film, you can watch it at thefilmfund.co/previous winners. I think there's a hyphen between previous and winners. Or you can just go to our website and click around and find it. Where else has it played on the festival circuit? David, where else can we watch it? What's like the
On
main home?
some, uh, it's on my Vimeo page
Okay.
and my website. So my Vimeo page, I'm not sure what the exact link to it is, but maybe we can link it
Yeah,
somewhere
we can put
else.
it in the
Or
description, and then we
yeah,
also we also embed it on the Film Fund's website. Which
and my website is osterproductions.com.
okay, very
So
cool. Have
you
I
can
been saying
find
your
it
name wrong
there.
this entire time? Is it Oster, not
Oh
Oster?
no, no. It's a funny that you asked that. Is that I respond to both
Okay.
because I go by Oster, but I have people in my family go by Oster.
Yep.
It's just
Same with me. Some
one of
people
those
say Verdi,
things.
some people say Verdi.
So I've long ago just let that go. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you brought up the sentence again. I couldn't even remember exactly what I had said
Yep.
before, but that's a important thing, especially because people listening to this are probably thinking, well, what did he do, or
Mm-hmm.
uh, how can I craft my sentence in a way that's like, putting in the mind of you and your judges what the film is going to be. I think that is the key,
Mm-hmm.
is just painting the picture of what the film is going to be. And I think in the how, why do I need the money, or that section is like, what's a unique sort of way that you plan to make the film that kind of jumps out, or like puts it in a, I have to see what this comes out like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And paint the picture. And so I'm glad I'm glad I was successful in that,
Mm.
And I think I think I was true to the sentence.
Absolutely.
We did what we said we were going to do. So I'm again super grateful to you and to your judges and everything for picking us and helping us fund that
Oh, you're
film.
very welcome. We're very glad to have you as part of the community, for sure. And one thing about those sentences, the best ones really relate that use of funds. And it's not like it's when we say use of funding, it's not like you have to use all of your funding for this one thing. It's something that's important that the funding will be used for. So, obviously, David Oster spent some of the money on hiring a camera guy and lighting, and not just focusing on the choreography, but that is one thing that he did use the funding for. So I just want to clarify
Mm.
that a bit. And the best sentences I was about to say, they relate to the compelling premise. The use of funds relates to that compelling premise. So because the moments are filled with suspense, color, and jazz, that's I'm kind of free flowing here, but suspense that brings about that sense of claustrophobia. One shot, okay, it's not going to cut at all. That's going to be very interesting. That kind of relates to the suspense. Same with jazz. Like I mean, this is just me spitballing here, but jazz can be very free form and is very quick sometimes. So when you put all that in one choreographed shot, it's like, oh wow, that's really interesting. Why is it all in one shot? Well, because there's suspense and there's jazz and there are different elements of jazz. We could get into music theory, but it relates to that sentence. So that's very important as well. Um, what are you, and talking about where you can watch the film, the filmfund.co. If you click on previous winners, you'll see David's photo there. You click right on that and you can watch the film right on the website. Um, I mean, we've seen distribution change so much over this pandemic with film festivals being forced to go online. I really do think online distribution is the future for short films. Features, I think, is up for debate. I mean, I love going to a movie theater and watching it, but for shorts, I mean, just there are so many shorts and so many voices. I think the internet is really the place for everyone to experience them. I mean, the festival experience is amazing, and it's been really a shame to see how that's some filmmakers have missed out on that this year. But I think they can work in tandem together, both online and in-person festivals. And David's film is definitely a testament to that. He has it on YouTube, he has it on Vimeo, he has it on our website. We like to steal the phrase from Short of the Week. They say everywhere all at once. That's their philosophy. Just get it out there. I released a short film a few weeks ago. I put it up on YouTube. I put it on Facebook Watch. I put it on IGTV. Even if it's only getting a couple of views on each platform or a couple of hundred views on each platform, they all add up, and they're all impressions, and they're all getting your name out there. So definitely put it online if you can. Speaking of projects you're working on, David, is there anything you've been writing during the pandemic or in pre-production of?
I completely agree with you there.
Oh yeah, I should also ask
Exposure,
your thoughts
just
on
no,
on
just
that.
getting your stuff out there is important, and especially now. And I agree with you too in terms of anybody who likes films or making films loves to see the movies in the theater, and I hope theaters last. I think they will. Maybe they'll evolve into something else, but you can see that streaming is uh, the way of the future in terms of a lot of the content that's being made, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, I've spent the majority of this year working on Loki for Marvel Disney Plus,
Okay.
and that is going to be. I can't really tell you much about it,
Hmm.
but I can tell you that it's going to be awesome.
Can you tell us what your
And
role is?
my role on that show was working for Tom Hiddleston,
Okay.
the actor, and so my contribution to the show is probably behind the scenes.
Mhm.
But I know what my contribution is, and I can't, politically, I can't really say much
Sure.
about the show or anything other than that. But it is going to be a really cool show. But that was, I think, those shows are sort of uh, breaking new ground in terms of what kind of shows are being made for streaming. Because what we really did was shoot like a 6-hour movie
Mhm.
uh, in like the time it takes to make one movie, and these things are connecting to the greater Marvel universe, and so it's a new world for making content, and I think that people are really going to be moving towards that. You can already see it, but I think that's where they're going to be focusing a lot of their attention and money into making more things like that for streaming that are sort of longer stories, but shorter than like a 22 episode TV or
Mhm.
15 episode or whatever, like a 6 episode thing. So it's interesting because it's like this weird in between movies and TV shows, and I think that's kind of like an interesting thing that Marvel is doing, and I think a lot of other people are gonna do similar things
Mhm.
because I think it's gonna be very successful.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's been
so
interesting
that's
to see
something for
the
people
evolution
to
of
look
that.
forward to. Yeah, I mean, because with streaming, like there's no like limit to how long anything has to be or
Mhm.
how short it needs to be. You can make each episode like before, you have commercial breaks, you have to a
Yep.
certain time slot that you have to fill. But with these, it could be a 45-minute episode, it could be an hour and a half episode. Like it doesn't, and so there's pros and cons. There's creative challenges and there's creative freedoms that are allowed to you. But I think, especially people, because the director of that show, going back to this, she had made some short films in the UK, and
Mhm.
and that's how she kind of got her start, you know. So to say that that's not possible or something is just wrong. Like that is how you can get your start. I think one of her short films got noticed by, I could be wrong about this, but I think it's got noticed by like Idris Elba, and then she was able to do something with him, and then that progressed to doing other shows, and eventually got her to working on Loki.
Mhm.
And so it is possible. Just make stuff.
Yeah,
You know what I
and
mean?
that shows you how
So
important shorts are. Um, we've talked
exactly.
about this with some
And
of our
so
previous guests, how you experiment, and they're playing as a calling card for you and your resume, so to speak. Just experiment, get out there, and make stuff. It's so important. And submit
yeah,
to the film fund to get funding to make
do it
them.
because it's worth it, and it's super helpful. I can tell you from our experience, it really, really helped. It helped get that film
Mm-hmm.
off the ground. It helped to get it made.
What did you like about the
And
experience? We're always looking for feedback, how we can improve, how we can change things.
you guys, I mean, I think for me, like the communication between you and I was always great. I think that you really were helpful in terms of like streamlining exactly uh, you what was needed and what we had to do. You know, just keep good records. Keep your, you had to submit a finance report of what you spent the money on, at which wasn't too hard of an ask,
Mm-hmm.
and it was promptly worked out after we submitted that. And so I mean, in terms of that, like I just think like I also like that there wasn't any sort of specific requirement that we had to use the money for or not, and you gave me the freedom to use it how
Mm-hmm.
we needed
Yeah,
it to
we
be
want to see
used.
you're going to use it for that one use that you present to us, but we're not going to tie you down to, like with Matt Greenberg's project Treehouse. We didn't just let him build a treehouse. Obviously, he needs to hire a cinematographer and hire
Yeah,
an entire crew and line produce and edit all that stuff. So yeah, we want to give you that flexibility that you need,
yeah,
while you're
and I
showing us
think
that one
that
use of funding, but also go make your damn film.
yeah, and I think that comes from you being filmmakers yourselves and
Mm,
understanding that that's there's a lot that goes into making any film, whether it's 5 minutes or you know 2 hours. So that to me uh, was great. I mean, I don't really have anything negative to say about the experience. I think it was all good because there wasn't like anything shady or red tape or anything. Like it was just like this is what it is. This is what we require, and make your movie. And I mean, for a filmmaker, what else, what more can you
mm,
ask? I've definitely worked on projects where there's a lot of like people in the kitchen working on it, and that can be good, but it can also be very frustrating at times. Last year, uh, making that documentary with sci-fi was a great experience. I thought that was a great success that we did, and I'm glad that we got to do it last year because there's no way we could have done it this year.
mm,
But we went to San Diego Comic-Con, we went to LA, and we went to Phoenix, and we spent different amounts of time filming in these places, and then we edited the whole film all together. But like all of that was was a process of working with a client of sci-fi and dealing with what they wanted, what their vision, my vision, and working it out together. I think that's one of the you know challenges of making anything, especially for a client or with a client or with the company that you're working with. I'm pretty sure any director who's ever made anything with a studio can probably relate to, you don't, you can't just do whatever you want,
mm,
And so part of that is learning. I mean, that's the thing you just can't be taught. You have to just be thrown to that fire
mm,
and just learn to work with people and express what you want and try to make that be pitch what you want to do and try to like fight for your vision and at sometimes and then relent at sometimes and
mm.
pick your battles and like not everyone's always going to agree exactly. Everybody has their own kind of different agendas of what what they get out of a certain project. But to me, at the end of the day, like if I'm directing something, that's my name
Hmm.
on that thing as directing, and that's as good as I am for doing my next thing. So I'm always going to fight for my vision of it as much as possible, and hope that I don't have to fight too hard, you
Right,
know.
right, right.
Uh,
And that's
but
why shorts are so great too, because you can do what you want if you don't have too many cooks in
yeah,
that kitchen.
yeah, and I think like again, like it's a way to like not only learn, but it's a way to like make whatever you want, but also like fail.
Hmm.
And it's not gonna kill you if you fail, like, because there's, that's a badge of honor to me, to make something maybe didn't turn out how you wanted, but that's okay. Or to make something and it's amazing, and it's something that's uniquely you, or like is like a thing you can use as a calling card to get more work. uh, as far as like what I'm working on, of course, I'm working on a lot of things. I've been writing a lot. We had a pretty long little lockdown there.
Yep.
And so during that time, I've had a ton of ideas that I'm working out, and both documentary projects and scripted projects. And obviously, COVID has kept us from really being able to make anything, but that's okay. And right now, I'm just kind of trying to finish working on some of the stuff I've started, and figure out exactly what I want to make next, because I think I do want to make another short film soon. My DP, he has used this time to sort of work on his stuff, and he's got a brand new camera package that we are itching to use,
There you go.
the red Komodo. And
Oh, you
so,
got the Komodo, or he got the Komodo.
yeah, I think he doesn't have it yet. I think it's in back order,
Oh,
but
okay.
soon. And I think, both he and I are, itching to make another film together. And so once we could figure it, he actually shot a short film back in, I think, October.
Hmm. Oh wow.
Uh, and
With, I guess,
like,
COVID protocols and everything.
yeah, I mean, and they had a COVID, everyone got tested.
Hmm.
They had, people that were hired to, be health and safety people for
Hmm.
their crew. And so they really did it professionally. Like, it was, I think it was a Star Wars fan film,
Okay.
but it was like, that I really commended them on being able to do
Yeah.
all
I
those
mean, we've seen,
things
we're
with
based in
a
Philadelphia
limited
here.
budget.
And I'll see different, I mean, the Film Fund's international, but I'm in Philadelphia, I guess I should say. And different agencies I've seen and production companies in Philly doing a lot of branded stuff. It is happening. In Philly, I'm not seeing too much narrative, but I'm seeing the COVID guidelines happen on a branded and corporate level.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, it adds an expense, but it's also great to see people getting out there, and you're still creating at the end of the day.
yeah. Uh, it's like, for me, I got respect for anybody who's able to do anything during this time. And so, like, anything creative at all,
Yep.
like, especially, I mean, I think we all had this feeling during the lockdown quarantine of it all, that was like, it was kind of hard to be creative for a lot of us, because there was a lot of uncertainty and a
Mhm.
lot of just like what's going on. And uh, so, anybody who was able to do anything during that time, uh, good on you, good
Yeah.
on you. you
Absolutely.
know
Absolutely.
so I mean, I think, if you get through 2020 and you're still on your feet, and you're still working, and you're still doing something, and you're okay mentally and everything else, then that's a good thing. Like, you're doing okay. You're doing
100% agree.
okay. If you were able to get in a sentence to the film fund this year, and it's a great sentence, and you get that email whenever you send out your email that you got the funding, that's a good year. That's a good time.
Yeah.
Like,
And even if you don't, if you're
congratulations.
not chosen as one of the winners who gets funding or some other sponsor prizes we have, what we're doing now is you now join a community. We have a Discord server. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
we're doing branded projects, as well as maybe some other projects, music videos, things like that. But if you're not
Cool.
chosen as a winner, you can still be chosen. You can pitch for other projects. So we have one laundromat company who's doing a branded entertainment short film, and Hema Interiano is working on that right now as we speak, and she owes me a cut by December 23rd, which is an interesting deadline. But she didn't win
Oh,
the film fund, but she still entered, and she joined the community, and now she's having the opportunity to create something. So definitely submit to the Film Fund. And if you don't win, you still join an amazing community. I've seen people in our freelancers channel get work, network, meet other filmmakers, exchange editing tips, things like that. What we want to do is create a community, and that's what we're doing. David, I want to thank
That's
you
great.
so much for coming on the show. Like I said, we wrapped up our most recent deadline last night, but we have contests multiple times per year. So if you're listening at a later date, be sure to go to thefilmfund.co to see our most up-to-date information, where you can write one sentence for our future projects, future contests pitching your project, win up to $10,000 to produce that, as well as things like Adobe Creative Cloud subscriptions, KitSplit gift cards, sponsored color correction and color grading services by Maestro Filmworks, and more. And also, check out our blog at thefilmfund.co/blog. You'll find great filmmaking and producing tips there. Sign up for the newsletter. Follow us on social media to stay up to date on what's happening at the Film Fund. Next week, we have a company called Binge Wave speaking about distribution and COVID and online watching. It's an online filmmaking experience. I don't want to give too much away about it, but we have Devin Dixon and his team coming on the show tomorrow. David, thank you again. Is there anything else you want to add or plug?
Thank you again for having me on. If you want to see the short film, check it out on the Film Fund's YouTube channel and website. Also, if you want to see my documentary on Todd McFarlane, it's on Sci-Fi Wire YouTube channel. And I want to thank you for having me on the show, man. Keep doing what you're doing for filmmakers. Let's not be strangers. And I'm going to look forward to watching more of your podcast and seeing amazing short films that come out of the Film Fund, man.
Awesome, David.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the support, and thank you for being part of the community.
Thank you, sir.
All right, talk to you soon.
See you later.
And everyone,
Bye.
listen, every Friday we have new episodes. I forgot to plug that. So there we go. Wrapping up.
Every Friday.
Every Friday. Have a good one.
Bye, man.